Welcome to Sense Style. I'm Stuart, and when I was a teenager, I got some of the worst advice that I've ever gotten, and I got it from everybody. Hang on, the teenage years are tough. When you get to your 20s, it's going to be the best time of your life. It was not. It was very difficult, and it was for a lot of people that I knew in my 20s, and that's because the advice was out of date. We're living in a modern world that is far more complicated, and so yeah, growing up is harder now. It wasn't until I got married at 33 and then got a really good job in my mid-30s. So about 35, everything was settled. I was in. I felt more like an adult. I felt everything was flowing. Well, that's what this video is for. It's for more mature men, for older guys, 35 and up, or for mature men in their 20s. There are a lot of them out there. That's what we're looking at today. This is not about super sweet, syrupy sweet fragrances that are all the rage right now. This is going for a more mature vibe, which I do think in the long run is going to be more attractive to women. So I got 8 good ones for you guys. Let's get to it. Fragrance number 1 is Armani Code Eau de Parfum 2024. And that date is really important because this is quite different than the 2021 version. Not just the fragrance, but the bottle itself. Armani made some major changes over the last few years to their code line, and they did something completely out of the ordinary that went in the exact opposite direction to every other fragrance and fragrance house that there is. They made the code line more mature. They didn't go after the sweetness. They didn't go after the younger guys who are wearing a lot of vanilla and very, very strong fragrances. They wanted to make the line more mature, and they did. This is the original Armani Code bottle. This is a 30 ml, and it's got some curves to it. It's kind of funky, but the changes in the line, this is the Eau de Parfum, and this is the parfum here. You can see they got very, very sleek, very minimalist, and more mature. It's almost like they've dressed these up and put them in a tuxedo. They're going for a different market. They're going more upscale. Now, the Eau de Parfum, I haven't talked about before on the channel. I've got the parfum I mentioned significantly. This has iris, and this does come off as the most mature, and that's generally how things go. The EDT are meant to be fresher. The Eau de Parfum is something in the middle, and then the parfum is more mature. But in this particular case, I do think the Eau de Parfum is much closer to the parfum. I was really surprised. I just got this recently. Now, they are different. There's no question. There's no iris here, but the vibe is very similar. This is sweeter, right? So you're going to get more tonka, I think, than in the parfum, and you don't get the modifying effect of the iris, which tones down the sweetness a little bit. You also going to get a little bit less freshness here. Use green mandarin. There's also some spicy nutmeg here as well. Very, very nice fragrance, solid performance. It's just nice to see that there is somebody out there, thank you Giorgio Armani, that are moving more in a more mature direction, counter to absolutely everything else on the market. Fragrance number 2 is a 20-year-old scent that is nothing like anything you're going to get on the market today, but it is an absolute all-time classic. This is YSL L'Homme, and I can call it a classic because there have been 15 flankers of this in 20 years. You do not make that many flankers from a fragrance that's a bomb or even mediocre. This was huge. It's also reflected in the fragrance encyclopedias. The older the fragrance, the lower the rating goes because it gets more and more out of date. They have more people voting on it, but this has a 4.35 rating, which is crazy high. And just as a comparison, Terre d'Hermès came out in the exact same year. This has 7 points higher in the rating than even a classic like Terre d'Hermès. This is an exceptional fragrance, and it fits perfectly right now because this is a ginger-based scent. In fact, the whole line is ginger-based, but ginger is a perfect spring scent. This is a fantastic spring scent. So it does lean a little spicier. Ginger is kind of spicy and fresh, but they've added spices to this. There's also lemon and bergamot, so it's got a citrus element, but it just smells so good for spring. An odd fact about this is that there were 4 perfumers involved, which is extremely rare, but it's important to look at the 2 main ones, Dominique Ropion and Anne Filippo, because they were the best perfumers on earth, at least in the 2010s, based on the fragrances that they made. So for men, the number 1 fragrance in terms of worldwide sales was Bleu de Chanel, but the number 2 was La Nuit de l'Homme, and who made that? Ropion and Filippo. But then you look on the female side, the number 1 selling fragrance in the 2010s by far was La Vie est Belle, and that was Filippo and Ropion as well. So you've got the number one fragrance on the female side, the number two on the men's side. Those two, when they work together, are magic, and they were the two main perfumers as this as well. Fragrance number 3 is Guerlain L'Homme Idéal Eau de Parfum, and this is a perfect example of the kind of fragrance that I believe will work much better on someone older or someone really well-dressed and sophisticated. Because most people know about the two aspects of the fragrance. Number one, it's that sweet cherry. That cherry note is super popular. But number two is really important as well. It's a very powdery scent. And that's the key, because if you are well-dressed or if you are older, you're more sophisticated. And the powderiness is what people are going to focus on, the sophisticated element. Now, if you're younger or not well-dressed, then you're more likely people to look at you and go, well, it's sweet, just like a lot of other sweet fragrances on the market. Now, with this fragrance, that can be a problem, because one of the complaints that I hear on a regular basis is the fact that this is a little feminine. And that's a problem if all they're picking up is, just how sweet. But if they're focusing on the sophistication, that is something they're much more likely to overlook. Now, this does have leather and incense in it, two traditionally male notes. However, those notes are quite toned down. A better indication of what you're going to get here is to look at the perfumer, Delphine Jelk. What fragrances are she famous for making? Usually on the female side. One of her most famous is called Mon Guerlain. And Mon Guerlain is a powdery vanilla scent. That's her area of expertise. This is the only fragrance in the Ideal line that she worked on. So they basically said, look, take your expertise in powdery vanilla and bring it to this fragrance. Basically, a slightly more feminine version of L'Homme Idéal. Now, it does work, but you do have to be careful about that line, about how you come across. And that's why the maturity really works for this, because they're going to focus on the sophistication. Since Francis Kurkdjian became in-house perfumer at Dior, he's gotten a lot of criticism from the fragrance community. Dior Homme Parfum 25 was seen as very generic and not particularly innovative. And then he created Sauvage Eau Forte, which a lot of people really didn't like. But I see on Fragrantica an awful lot of articles where people are defending him. I see it in the news groups as well. People are like, well, he's got people above him, and there's a lot of pressure to make something mass appealing. And sure, that's true. But to me, this, which is Dior Homme 2020, this is proof that you can still make a fantastic fragrance with all kinds of pressure, because when Dimashi created this, he wasn't just affecting a single fragrance, he was affecting the entire line. And so everybody was expecting an iris-based line that people had come to love. And he had all kinds of pressure because iris wasn't seen as being a big moneymaker, whereas woody scents, a more generic style, would be. But he hit it out of the park. This is one of my favorite fragrances. It's in my top 20. And so he created something that was woody and different and still like really, really good. So yeah, I'm like, I don't buy that whole Kurkdjian stuff. And I've been quite disappointed with him since he has moved to Dior. And this fragrance, probably above all, proved to me just how good Dimashi is. But I'm not buying Dimashi's argument. When this was released, he said that this was a mix of carnal woods. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Francois. Woods are not carnal. There's nothing carnal about woods. He then went on to say it's a simple classic. That I agree with. The simplicity here is fantastic. It is a very woody scent, though. He used 2 aroma chemicals, cashmeran and isoe super, and then he used vetiver and cedar. There's some patchouli in here as well. There's some freshness from the citrus and the elemi, but to me, it just works. It's got a sophisticated feel to it. It's got a really pleasant feel to it. I don't know anything else like it, or not many things like it out there. It was innovative. It's got good performance. But yeah, I think it's fantastic. And I think, that's their job, right? Their job as perfumers is to just make really good stuff regardless of the pressure. And Dimashi certainly did that, and I miss him. Fragrance number 5 was a really lucky find for me. Whenever I'm feeling impulsive or I'm bored, I will go to my local drugstore and I will peruse the inexpensive fragrance section. They're usually going for 20 bucks Canadian, which is about 15 US, and I'll grab something, and 9 times out of 10, it's garbage and you won't hear about it. But I found a really, really good one, a huge surprise. This is Jovan Amber Delight. And the only reason I picked it up was it's an amber fragrance, and I really like amber. And I've got a lot of them, so there's a lot to compare to here. And this is unbelievably good for what I was expecting for $15, because I have Jovan Musk. Now, this came out in 1973. I bought this at Walmart. It's really inexpensive, and it looks and smells cheap. I mean, the atomizer here is super cheap. That is not the case with Amber Delight. First of all, it's fairly modern fragrance. It's got a lot of amber, so it's got the sweetness, but the performance is really good. This is less synthetic than a fragrance that I got recently that's also amber-based that was double the price. This was a good fragrance. Now, amber comes with a lot of different things. This is mainly with spices. It's got a lot of cardamom and pink pepper. Performance is about 5 hours. Projection, very solid. And normally when I buy these bottles for 20 bucks Canadian, it's usually a 50 or 40 ml bottle. This is a full 100 milliliter. I mean, this one just knocked it out of the park in every single way. It's a unisex fragrance, but it definitely leans more masculine. The vanilla one, that's more feminine, but this one is fine. I was really, really happy with this pickup. Fragrance number 6 is Calvin Klein's Obsession. Now, this is a vintage bottle, so the performance is really good, but for a long time, I owned the newer bottles, and they weren't as strong as this, but they were still plenty strong. And this is a really nice adult fragrance. It has got a lot of sweetness, so it's not going to feel like super old school. There's some aromatic notes here, but they are buried. What you're going to get mostly here is amber with myrrh. So think a darker amber. There's going to be some spices, cinnamon and nutmeg. A lot of cinnamon here, and a lot of woods as well. So think of this as like the modern fragrances that are super sweet, toned down. Beautiful, beautiful scent. There is one thing about this fragrance that is super weird. I will put up what I saw, but basically there's an aroma chemical here called civitone, and civitone apparently attracts large cats. I couldn't believe what I was reading. In some cases, they're more attracted to it than food, and so they actually use this fragrance to attract large cats. That is one of the strangest things that I've ever read. And so there you go. If you're going to be wearing this to like African lion safari, you better keep your windows closed. You better be careful because they're going to love it. Fragrance number 7 is Jaipur pour Homme. This is the eau de parfum version. This is a classic cheapie that, again, much like Obsession, really does fit in with the modern DNA, but it's more toned down. It's not like super syrupy sweet, but it is still quite sweet. It's more a mature sweetness. This is a fragrance that I see regularly on like Mr. Smelly's channel, like the older channels, and I think it's fantastic. It came out in 2000. The performance is really solid. It's surprisingly inexpensive. It's vanilla based, but it's a thinner vanilla. It's not the heavy vanilla. There's a lot of spices, again, cinnamon and nutmeg, which again, I think balances out the heavy vanilla perfectly. The main thing though is it's got lemon and lemon verbena. So think a lemony vanilla more than anything. Again, really good performance. The only flaw that this really has, as far as I'm concerned, well, it's gotten better over time, but the cap takes a little bit of muscle to get off the cap. But nice bottle. Everything about this is a really good, solid buy. And I mean, like 6 hours performance for a $40 fragrance that smells fairly modern. You can't beat that. Finally, we have Boss The Scent Absolute. This is a fragrance that is completely overlooked in the modern world because there are just so many fragrances now. I'm sure most people will be familiar with the Boss The Scent line. It revolves around maninka fruit, which is quite sweet. Here's the thing. They have 10 of those scent fragrances released. And on Fragrantica, this is the second highest rank fragrance in the Boss The Scent line, just behind the Elixir. And my God, like, that's unbelievable when I think that hardly anyone will even give a second thought to this. But when I got it for the first time, I liked it so much. I waited for it before I did a fall video. I'd had a chance to try it, and I knew it fit fall perfectly. It works well in spring, too. So yeah, this one is really, really good. Maninka fruit is very sweet, but again, we're toning down the sweetness of the maninka fruit with the use of ginger off the top, and this is the key here, the vetiver in the base. So it's more woody, it tones down. And look, maninka fruit, don't get me wrong, that is a very, very sweet note. People compare it to chocolate-covered strawberries. So yeah, you're going to get a little fruity and a little like heavy sweetness, but toned down in a really nice way. Still sweet, but more of a wearable sweet for a more mature person. Anyway, I hope this video didn't come across as me throwing shade. It's more like, yeah, if you're in your 40s, 50s, you know, you don't have to give up. You still are a sexual being. You can still be attractive to women. It was more that way was my intention. But yeah, I do think it really is a major advantage to be older too. And then people are like living healthier, much older. And, you know, things are getting good in a lot of ways. We tend to focus on a lot of the negative stuff, but yeah, I'm quite comfortable now, thank God. It's taken me a while. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys.